Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. As always, I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined today, just as, I shouldn't say as always, but in most of our episodes recently, our co-host, Alec Crowhamel. No Mike today. Mike, not under the weather. Mike just doesn't want to talk basketball, and I don't blame him at this point. No, he's a little busy with the day job. But before we get started talking about this shit show of a season, and this is going to be a lot of cursing, so I'm going to preface this by saying, if you're under 18, don't listen. Or if you have someone listening in the background, you might want to turn the volume down a little bit. Anyway, this show is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA to college basketball to the NHL and UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one betting source from every three-pointer to hat trick. BetOnline has you covered with the odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. The Rutgers season ended 2 weeks ago. Alec, another loss. I tweeted out that this might be the worst loss of the season, and I know it's not, but it just felt that way just because they were so competitive in that first half and fell off a cliff in the second half. Is there any hope for another win this season, to be honest?
I think out of just pure desperation, it feels like they or a desperation on my end at least, like they're going to get, I think, at least one more. I mean, you look at the rest of the schedule. You got Washington coming up. That has to be a win against, it's basically a playing game for the Big Ten tournament at this point. Yep. Going at Washington, and that's a team that you should have the talent advantage over. And then you come back home against USC, a team that's been inconsistent this year, but has kind of figured it out as the year's gone on. A team that's coming across the country. And I think Rutgers should be favored in that game. It's a 6:00 Sunday game. Although from football season, we know how it went last time. A team that had been inconsistent came across the country.
That's true.
To Rutgers. But anyways, I think Rutgers has a chance to win that game as well. I don't know if they will, because like I said, USC's kind of figured it out as the year has gone on, whereas Rutgers hasn't. And then you have the two, I would say that the two hardest games remaining at Michigan, at Purdue, two of the top three teams in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. You've already lost to both these teams already. Granted, Michigan, it was a close and competitive game. Purdue, that was probably the worst loss of January, I would say, the way that game went down. And then you come back home March 9th against Minnesota for Senior Day. That's another game that they should be favored in and should win. I think they win two more games. USC is a toss-up, and I think obviously they lose those two road games. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to lose out per se, just because I think there's too many winnable games left. But you certainly have to start with a win over Washington to even think about making the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, so let's go back to this Oregon game. Where did it kind of go wrong? I mean, 7-point lead in the first half. They looked like they were shooting really well. Exact stats, actually, 56% from the field, 33% from three. Looked like they were playing pretty well, and then towards the end of that first half, it just seemed like the defense just kind of – and I shouldn't even say towards the end of the first half, because it seems like the defense wasn't there the entire first half, because they were still keeping up almost the entire 20 minutes, but they played really well in those first 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden the second half hits, and they go from, 53 to 37% and 1 of 10 from three. So it's like, what went wrong? Is it just a matter of the stars that aren't there anymore, or – I know people are saying these guys aren't top picks, and I think that's stupid. But where do you think this kind of went wrong in this game? Let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the defense. And the defense, for really most of the game, wasn't totally there. They had been forcing turnovers, which was good, but in terms of forcing bad shots or forcing missed shots, they just weren't getting it done on that end of the defense. And let's just get this out of the way. Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are going to be top 5 picks this year, barring something truly unforeseen. Even if they get injured, heaven forbid, they'll probably still be top 5 picks in the draft. Nothing about the rest of the season I don't think would change that. Again, barring something completely unforeseen, I don't even know what would change that. But
it'd have to be like a Laramie Tunsil type situation, and even then, I'd probably still take them top 5.
Hey, it's legal now, so that wouldn't even do anything either.
That's true.
So yeah, they're going to be top 5 picks. I think people are looking at it too much from a lens of college basketball perspective, which makes sense because, Rutgers college basketball. If you mainly watch Rutgers, you're going to see it from that perspective. But looking at it from an NBA perspective, even if they didn't play a single game at Rutgers, they would still be top 5 picks this year because of
100%.
their outlook, their build, Ace in particular, his upside. Dylan, I think, has only raised his draft stock thanks to the production he put out, especially earlier on in the season. So yeah, they're just to get that out of the way. Nothing is going to change the fact that they will be top 5 draft picks. Maybe Ace falls out of the top 5 if teams don't like his outlook with his
worst
shot selection.
At the very worst.
But, yeah, exactly. They're going to be top picks. That just to get that out of the way. But unfortunately, the last couple of games they haven't been at their best, which it's tough. Obviously, you want to see your stars, and you need your stars, especially with this team. You need your stars to show up. But they had been, carrying a huge offensive burden for much of the year. And, obviously they were going to have bad games at certain points. It's just, not ideal that they're both having not great games right now in the same game as well. So I would say that at least for a lot of the game, your best 2 freshmen were Dylan Grant and Lathan Somerville, in my opinion, at least on offense. But yeah, the defense was really what doomed this game. I mean, yes, it oftentimes there's a lot of luck that has to go a team's way to shoot 13 of 22 from 3. But at the same time, so many of those looks were just wide open with nobody around. The defense, it didn't show enough discipline to, try to really get after some of these 3-pointers. Looking at Jackson Shellstad, I mean, he kind of just went off in that second half. He didn't have a great first half, but then went off in that second half. It just felt like the dam completely collapsed in that second half in terms of defense, where they were kind of holding on in the first half, mostly because they were scoring at such a high rate and getting a lot of really good looks on offense. And then once the shooting started to dry up, I mean, everything just broke through on defense. Like you're looking at some of the stats, it's like, turnovers 13-9. Rutgers committed 13 turnovers and forced 9. Mostly even there. Oregon won the rebounding battle. They had 5 more offensive rebounds. I mean, points in the paint, Rutgers actually got more, 32-26. Really, the game flipped on the 3-point shooting and the ball movement. 28 made field goals, and Oregon, I don't know why I said Oklahoma. Oregon assisted on 16 of them, where Rutgers had 5 assists on 24 made baskets. The game really flipped on in terms of shooting because Rutgers went 4 of 19 from 3. And yeah, the game just flipped there. I mean, looking at some of the 3-point shooting, Shellstad 3 of 6, TJ Bombo 1 of 2, Bartholomew 2 of 3, Angel 1 of 2, Nate Biddle 2 of 3. By the way, Nate Biddle, I mean, where did that guy come from? It feels like now it just feels like he kind of, I don't know. He was a former 5-star, I believe, right? High 4-star, 5-star. He was a very highly regarded recruit
and kind of struggled early on and just turned into a really good player later on. Yeah. So it goes to show you what happens when you stay at the same school for God knows how, or for 4 years. 4 years?
Exactly.
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of broken through as to one of the top players for Oregon as well. It's just the 3-point shooting on both ends really doomed Rutgers in this game, and it was exacerbated by the fact that Rutgers just hasn't been able to get together on defense for a consistent stretch of games at all. That was the biggest problem.
Yeah, stupid shots too from Rutgers several times. Now, there was a couple where Ace was just trying to force something to go in. And then there was also a couple of shots where these guys had open looks and they were still it wasn't their night. They were missing completely. I got to the point where I was tweeting about it. I was like, dude, Ace just needs the red light. Like, stop. And it was funny because whoever the announcer was, and I want to say, it wasn't Bardo, right? I think it was.
The analyst, it was Casey Jacobson.
Okay. So as soon as that second half warm-up started, right before the actual tip-off, or not tip-off, inbound pass for the second half, they were like, yeah, I think Ace is going to get the green light going forward. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I guess you could say that just because he's such a potent scorer. Like, see what he could do. After 4 shots, I'm like, nope, stop it. It's anyone else at this point. But then I look at the rest of the roster, and I'm saying anyone else. You know what? 4 people scored on this entire team in the second half. 4 people. And one of them was,
realize that.
Yeah, Ace, Dylan, Somerville, and JaMychal Davis. Everyone else missed shots. Jeremiah Williams, 0 of 1. Jordan Durkak, 0 of 1. Dylan Grant, 0 of 1. Tyson Acuff, 1 minute. Bryce Dortch still hasn't shot. He out there for blocks and cardio. That's what he's out there for.
He did score his first career points in the
I
first half,
was
though.
mind blown when they said that. And I'm watching the games all season long, and I just, for some reason, thought he scored before that. I didn't think
Well,
it would take him 7
yeah.
games to score a point.
Well, he'd also taken only 2 shots, and both of them were in the same game.
Again, back to the cardio and blocks, because that's really all it is. The crazy thing is, and I'll shout out to Mike Bass, who posted about this in the Discord. Bryce Dortch has 4 blocks in 49 minutes played. That's 1 block every 12 minutes. Pretty solid numbers for Bryce Dortch. Now, I know you mentioned before off the pod, it's probably because a lot of people are just attacking him because he's skinny and feel like they can try to body him, but he's getting blocks out of it. So whatever. And that happens. You're probably going to lose a lot of those battles too. It's like I like to compare it to like a Nick Claxton type situation with the Nets where his his rookie year, he was really skinny. He was getting blocks, but in reality, he was also giving up a lot of points in the paint. It happens. Agvole has 9 blocks in 281 minutes. So that's 1 every 30 minutes. Like, there's just no paint presence on this team. Their best paint presence on defense is Ace. And when you do that to Ace, I feel like you're also hurting him and hurting his offensive output because you're putting so much pressure on him to defend the paint. Now, on top of that, the lack of defense in the paint, you have a center that's undersized who also can't defend the paint. And if that center, God forbid, leaves the paint, if Ace is outside the paint, or I'm sorry, if they're in the paint trying to defend, the rest of the outside beyond the arc is wide the fuck open. And that's where you have every single situation that happened in the second half. Not even just second half, this entire game. Because they just gave up every 3. Like, it was just so many open looks from 3 for Oregon. It was insane. Guys were trying to do either guys weren't catching up quick enough. It was either a transition 3 or even worse, it's ISO ball and you're getting crossed. One of your better defenders and Dylan Harper got completely crossed and like fell backwards like 3 foot. And I forget who it was, just nailed a 3. I don't know if it was Bamba or if it was, no, it wasn't Bamba because he needed a 3. So it might have been Shellstead. I don't know who it was, but it was on the top of the wing. And it's just so many open 3s. And this is a team that's prided itself on defense so many times before. And I want to give a shout out to Steve Politi on this because on the Rutgers Rain, he mentioned it. But Michael kept saying earlier in this, not even earlier in the season, a couple of weeks ago, that this team's right there. It's getting closer. It's getting closer. And Steve mentioned it. They're not. They have just fell off a cliff again. They're not getting closer. This is now the worst Rutgers team in recent history. And last year was pretty bad, speaking of. So it's like, how do they keep getting worse in these new months of the new year? In the past 2-3 seasons now. It's so bad. And you can't pride yourself on defense when you're giving up 75. Like, it's just, I don't know, man. Is it just the pieces? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the lack of offense? Is it just square peg, round hole, like, type situation? Like, I don't really know what to say anymore.
I think that's definitely part of it, where you just don't have the bodies that can develop into, the key defenders, especially. I mean, you have guys who are mostly defensive oriented, a guy like JaMychal Davis, but then you also have guys like Tyson Akov who kind of need to be on the floor for offensive purposes, but this defense just isn't where it needs to be. And how much of that could be blamed on the injury, I don't know, but they just don't have the bodies, and they haven't developed defensively the way that past Rutgers teams have, where it seems like they're really finding their stride, even if it doesn't show record wise. They're kind of finding their stride in later on in the season, and they figure out the defensive system. Like looking at last year's team, like last year's team was, before this year, one of the worst teams since probably the 2018 season. And they had a top 6 offense in the entire country. I think they were number 2 for a lot of that season as well, where it felt like, the offense was the problem there because they were ranked like 300
top 6
in the country.
Defense, yeah. You said top 6 offense.
Okay, yeah, no,
it's not even close. I was like, what are we talking about?
I think it was 300th in offense and like top 6 defense. So yeah. The problem is they just don't have those guys that have been able to develop into defenders, and it felt like it's been a lack of discipline on defensive times too, where it feels like, usually I feel like Rutgers has always done really well defensively in terms of, I don't know if this is the correct term, but I kind of call it the scramble drill, where you need guys rotating all over the floor when you're closing out on shooters. It feels like Rutgers just doesn't have that same synergy on defense. I forget who said it a while ago, but in, the peak of Rutgers defenses over the last few years, it always felt like it's, on a string and someone's like puppeteering it, I guess is the word, where the way that they move on defense are always connected. This team just doesn't have that this year.
Yeah. Now, part of that, and you said development, and that's the perfect, not excuse, it's the perfect reasoning for it. Pikel's teams have always been so good when you have so many veterans, when you have a rim protector that's just can stand in the paint and basically just not just block shots, but alter shots. And that's what Cliff was for 4 seasons. I forget. Either way, 4 seasons. So that's when you have that rim protector. It's different. Lathan's not that rim protector. And like you don't have that, like you have some of that length with like a Dylan Grant and you have Ace Bailey out there, but you also lose some of that length when you put out a Jermichael Davis. And Jeremiah Williams has regressed defensively too. Jordan Durkak's not a Caleb McConnell type. Like these are all guys that Pikel was able to develop and turn into really key pieces. And when you have 4 years with guys, I think it works for Pikel's system. In today's day and age of basketball, that's not realistic. And that's where I'm starting to question, has Pike kind of I just can't even say plateaued. Has he peaked basically? And is it all downhill from here? Because in today's day and age, you're not getting 3-4 years to develop guys. Even if you do have this really nice freshman, I'm not saying the top 5 stars, say next year you have this class of Leno Mark and Caden Powers and Chris Nwoli, and who's the fourth one? Javante Ware. I can almost guarantee you in today's day and age in college basketball, at least 2 of those guys will not stay for more than 2 years. Based on being good or bad, either way. It's just there's no such thing as development in college basketball. Rick Pitino said it the other day. I don't even go to high school coaches or high school players' houses anymore. Going straight to the portal, straight to the negotiating table. That's it. And look what he's doing now. He's going to have them with a damn good team in this tournament this year. So I don't know. Am I wrong to say Pikel's peaked?
It's tough to say. I think it's going to be a lot more telling after this year's portal class. Who they bring in, if they miss on any of the top guys or anything like that. I think that's going to be more telling, just to see where the direction is and how they're able to continue to sell the program, bringing guys financially too. That's a big part of it. Probably the biggest part of the portal at this point as well. So I think that's going to be more telling. It's kind of tough to say right now, but that's going to be much more telling to see what the roster looks like coming into next year.
Do the math real quick. Right now, technically, if everyone returns that can return, not including Ace and Dylan, because we know they're not returning. So get that idea out of your head. The Cooper flag nonsense too. Also bullshit.
That was taken much out of context. Yeah.
None of those 3 are returning. They're all top 5 picks, top 6 picks, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're almost guaranteed a first rounder, you're not staying. There's no reason to, because you want to get to that second contract in the NBA, and that's when you get a fuck ton of money. So it's just like get there. Plus, you're going to make what? Number 1 pick makes $12 million this year. Could they pay Cooper Flag $12 million? Technically, I'm sure they could, but in reality, he wants to get to that second contract in year 4, and that's where you get all the big bucks. But
exactly, it's all about starting the clock for that second contract early, and that's why you see so many guys, including Cooper Flag, reclassifying so much.
Exactly. Now, right now, they have 2 spots open because Dylan and Ace are probably going to be gone. I'm going to pull up this chart actually, make it easier for everyone. Where is it? Zoom in a little bit. We don't need to see our faces again. All right, so right here.
Oh, look, it's us.
Yeah, it won't go away for some reason. Nope, now on our YouTube channel. All right, anyway, besides the point. So gone. You're probably going to say at least one to two transfers out. Who that's going to be, I don't know. Could Durkak return? I think Durkak probably returns, right?
I think so.
Emmanuel Ogbole, I know we just talked about this off the pod. I don't know. I keep saying he's going to stay, but I could also see him leaving. Because he's not going to get, in an ideal world, actually, no, even if Lathan stays, I don't know.
Lathan's going to be the starter next year if he stays.
Yeah, that's the weird one. Jeremiah Williams, I think, leaves. I think he's gone. I don't think he goes in the portal. I think he's just straight up I'm out. But then again, in today's day and age where you can make some decent money in the portal, he could go to the portal, I guess.
Yeah, I could see that either way. A guy like a Jacob Young, where he's kind of like a looking for somewhere to go pro, but then find a landing spot in the portal late. Some
team that's just looking to kind of fill a late roster spot and all right, this guy can fit. Jermichael Davis stays. I can't see him really going anywhere. Ace is gone. Bryce George stays. Right. Stop me if you disagree with me on any of these. Lathan Somerville. Personally, I'm in the boat that he leaves. I think he's gone.
I think he stays, but I could see a world where he leaves.
Yeah, I know his recruitment was so NIL based, and now if he wants to start guaranteed next year, he stays, of course. I just feel like they're going to go out and get a rim protector in the portal. Who that guy is, how much he's going to cost, I don't know, but I feel like that's almost a necessity for a Pikel type style of team. So we'll wait and see. That one's going to be really interesting. That's probably the most interesting case out of everyone on this roster, to be honest. Dylan Grant, I know people were speculating, like, do we have the money to keep Grant? I don't. Guys like Grant don't cost a shit ton of money, number one. Like, number two, like, they tried, it's a staff that has trusted him. Like, this is a kid that didn't play his whole senior year. Most schools would have been like, you're not playing senior year. Like, I don't know if I want you anymore. I'm not taking that risk. Rutgers stayed true to him. He's from Canada, not local-ish, but it's local enough where Rutgers has some pretty good connections to Canada, football, basketball, etc. They've always done pretty well there. I don't think he goes anywhere, personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and I get people saying that we have to that Rutgers has to pony up in order to keep guys like Lathan and Dylan, and Dylan Grant. But Lathan, obviously, yeah, the center market last year went absolutely crazy. I'm sure it's going to get even crazier this year. A guy like Dylan Grant, I don't think anyone's going to be really chomping at the bit to try to poach him. So I think he's in
I think
good hands.
They're pretty safe there. And then obviously the 4 freshmen coming in aren't going anywhere. So now you have 2 spots technically open, maybe 3 if one of those guys, maybe 4 even. Who knows? Where do you go from there? I think everyone keeps talking about how this easy fix, go hire an OC and that's it. You're done. There's your offense all of a sudden. Personally, I don't see that as the case. I don't think Pike actually goes out and gets an OC. I think Pike's going to go back to his old ways of defense first, try to find some lengthy players that can play the 2-3 role, just kind of alter passes and just get in the way of passes, get in those passing lanes, clog the lanes, and just kind of go from there and play your old school style of defense and try to win games 57-55.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we're operating under the assumption that at least one assistant coaching spot opens too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say Brandon Knight's probably gone if I had to guess. And people are speculating because I've been saying this for a while. There's been long rumored talks that Brandon Knight's last season will be Ace and Dillon's season with Rutgers, and I get that because he recruited the 2 of them. Does he? You have to also recognize he's not recruiting anyone. It's all Marlon Williamson or TJ Thompson right now. Is he going to get a MAC level job? I shouldn't say MAC because that's football, but mid major level job. I think he will. I think just because
there is a MAC in basketball, the MAAC.
I know it's yeah. But I'm saying in general, like a mid major job, I think he could get. I know people are speculating the fact that they had such a bad season that he has no chance at it. That's not true. That's not at all how it works. Brandon Knight's still very well respected among the college basketball community. He's a Pittsburgh Hall of Famer. He's also credited with helping to rebuild Rutgers. If you don't recall, they were the shittiest program in all of college basketball a couple of years ago, or before Pike got there, and he did rebuild them. Still, and Pike's not going anywhere. I'll tell you right now. Pike's got one more year, at least, to try to rebuild this thing, and I think you go from there. But the fact that there's interim AD who doesn't have the power to really do any of that, could like the Board of Governors come out and say, hey, like we're going to fire him? Yeah, they could. I don't think they're going to. I think Pike's bought a lot of like that goodwill and like kind of equity in the fact that he's rebuilt them and he's taken them to tournaments before. And at most programs that won't stand, but at Rutgers isn't most programs. Rutgers was, like I just said, arguably the worst high major program in all of college basketball before Pike took over. He got them to snap a 30-year tournament drought. He's one of him and dating back to, he's the only coach with a winning record since Gary Waters. And Gary Waters still didn't even get him to the tournament, which is crazy. Like he's earned enough respect that he gets at least one more year. Most programs won't do that for him. He's going to do that. Combine that with the interim AD, combine that with the expensive ass contract. He's not going anywhere. Does Brandon Knight leave? I think that's the most likely scenario. The question mark is, does he take Smoke Williamson with him?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it would be a little bit too big of a jump for if Pitt's season continues to go down the drain and they move on from Jeff Capel. That might be a little bit too big of a jump. I don't know if Pitt would take a chance on him. I think they would get someone with more established experience. But
I
I
don't know.
wouldn't
I
be
think he'd be right
surprised.
there, to be honest with you. Like it's a Pitt legend. It's just so risky, as we know from Rutgers hiring Eddie Jordan. Different scenario a little bit, but it's just so risky to hire a guy because you could tarnish his legacy really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't, a job like I don't know, let's say, so Andrew Toole, head coach at Robert Morris,
Hmm.
he's been there for 15 years, by the way. Took over for Mike Rice. Um, has been there since 2010, and they are playing very well this year. They had not been very good in the last couple of years, but this year I think they're leading the Horizon League, or they're near the top of the Horizon League.
Hmm.
Let's say Andrew Toole gets an opportunity elsewhere. It's not too far outside of Pittsburgh. Maybe Robert Morris takes a chance on Brandon Knight. I don't know. That's just me
That'd be a good
completely
stepping
spitballing.
stone. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you do got to watch out because they do play a team on a 1-game win streak this Friday in Doug Gottlieb's Green Bay. Hey, they got to win. They got to win.
Yeah, they did. They did. After I think Doug Gottlieb saged the arena or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
but
Crazy.
yeah, if Rutgers does have an assistant coach opening, I mean, one name that I would definitely look for. I know this probably wouldn't be the offensive first type hire that people are probably looking for,
Mhm.
but a guy like Patrick Sellers, the head coach at Central Connecticut State, he's worked with Peichel, or at least a Peichel tree, for a long time.
Mhm.
He played at Central Connecticut State. Now he's their head coach. He's been basically, for all of his basketball career, he's been in Connecticut. He was with I think this was when Steve Peichel was an assistant at Central Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
Peichel was there from 97 to 01, so
Yes, there's some overlap there.
yeah.
He worked under Jim Calhoun for 6 years. Going from a director of basketball operations to associate head coach is a pretty big jump, especially for a program like UConn. He's worked at a lot of different places as well: Hofstra, Creighton, DePaul, Fairleigh Dickinson, and then as an assistant at Fairfield, working with Jay Young, who's currently on staff, and then he's been at Central Connecticut the last couple of years. And he was the NEC Coach of the Year last year, and they're Central Connecticut State. They're playing some solid basketball this year as well. So he might get a head coaching job, and he might get a mid-major head coaching job. But if he doesn't, this would definitely be someone that I would look out for as a potential assistant coach at Rutgers.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a good name for sure. I know everyone keeps wanting this offensive coordinator type, and I just don't see Peichel doing it. Peichel's going back to his old style, if I had to guess, and that's a guy that fits his old style. Now you have Jay Young on staff, like you mentioned, connection there. Also coached alongside Peichel, coached under Calhoun. It just checks a lot of boxes. That's a guy that's definitely probably going to be on our hot board if there is one. I don't know, man. There's so much that needs to be done. Like, how much can he change the program in a single year? It's so risky. And NIL is the big situation too. They need money. They need money. And we know Greg Schiano's done a great job of raising money, raising funds. This is a guy that was going out and meeting people, and he got people that don't even have anything to do with Rutgers, like no connections, no family ever went to Rutgers, that are donating NIL to Rutgers. Can Peichel be that guy? I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest. I think that's where a GM has to come in, and that's where you have to go hire someone. I said this, I think, last pod, actually. There's been no movement on that. I think next game, when's the next home game? Sunday, I think.
Sunday against USC, yeah.
I think that's going to have to be a question we have to ask, and just be like, hey, we see all these other coaches that are like very adamant they're hiring GMs. We see a lot of guys with NBA ties, like G League ties, are now getting NBA jobs, college GM jobs, because that's what it's become at this point. And I need a GM that can raise money. Who that's going to be, I don't know. I don't know what you do there. I really don't. And I don't know if you could find one in time to save your job. And I don't know how much leeway this new AD is going to give you. It really depends on who he is and how much he's into basketball, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the other thing that's the crazy part is, like, everyone keeps, and going back to the people that want Peichel fired, the new AD is not going to be hired till a new president's hired. New president's probably not going to get hired till June, or maybe even May at this point. Maybe April. It depends, but he's going to have to go through his own process to hire an AD. When the AD gets hired, it's probably July at this point.
And
they're not firing a head coach in July.
You're essentially tanking your own program at that point.
Yep. And that's a big reason why we're going to segue, and that's why we get paid the big bucks. Quick segue into women's basketball, because no, I don't. Because women's basketball's Coke East Washington's probably got to have a little bit of a warm seat too. and I don't think they are going to fire her either, which is crazy considering not one, but maybe 2 5-stars are done now.
Yeah, they lost last night to Northwestern, team that is also in the Big Ten basement. It really kind of puts a damper on the Big Ten tournament hopes.
Yeah.
They're not out of it yet, but
Hmm.
they, with 3 games to go, they have their West Coast trip coming up. They're at Washington on Thursday, and then on Sunday they are at Oregon, and then they have a week off, and then their last regular season game is next Sunday, March 2nd, against Penn State. That's another game that you have to win because Penn State is also
In the
a
basement.
bottom feeder in the Big Ten. Let's see if we can just pull it up here just to get a good visual. The problem here with the standings right now is that a bunch of teams have played a different amount of games, so it's kind of tough to discern some of these scenarios for Big Ten tournament clinching and all that. So if you look right now, Rutgers is in 17th place right now, but they have 2 more losses because they have 2 more games than Northwestern, 1 more than Purdue, and then they're 1 game ahead of Penn State. And they already have a head-to-head win over Penn State. They play 1 more time. They have a head-to-head win over Purdue as well, but they did not have a head-to-head win over Northwestern. That could be a very key result in the standings as well. Wisconsin, too. They are not too far ahead either. They're only 1 game ahead of Northwestern, but they also have a head-to-head win over Rutgers. So the Scarlet Knights haven't done themselves a ton of favors in terms of winning against the bottom teams. The Penn State game is a must-win at this point in order to at least feel safe about getting to the Big Ten tournament. Over the next couple of weeks, it's going to be interesting to see how the standings shake out as the schedule gets a little bit more equal and these teams start getting to the same amount of games. If I had to say right now, I feel like it's really tough to project because of the reason that they haven't played the same amount of games, and some of these teams have winnable games left on the schedule. I can't say either way if Rutgers makes it or not. Right now, I lean towards no, but I could very well easily see them getting that 15 spot where Northwestern's at right now.
Yeah, not great. Keelan McMiller missed another game last night. Any updates there? I know my tweets have not been kind. I'm trying to get in touch with their publicist that everyone says to contact, and she's just not answering. So
yeah, no updates. She's still day to day, game to game, not feeling 100%. So when she is back to 100%, she will, according to the team, she will be back.
So she's not coming back. That's all I have to say.
Yep. I'm not saying it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if we don't see Keelan McMiller don a Rutgers uniform again.
Yep, and I would be shocked if she wasn't in the portal in a couple weeks. That's
exactly.
Just to be honest. Anyway, that should happen rather quickly after that season ends.
The question is, where does she go? That's I don't know.
I don't know, man. Bad luck when you're kind of on social media, bad mouthing the coach, and you're playing for the coach, and you're sitting out again. Seems similar to a Mawat Mag type situation. Not as much social media out there, but similar, quite on the team, basically. Or you could say Wesley Bailey. Seems like this happens a lot at Rutgers.
Well, I feel like it happens a lot everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, we just don't know about it as much, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the easy connection is, because Kayleen Smichael's at Maryland now. She's from Silver Spring. The problem is Maryland didn't recruit her out of high school, and I'm sure she did not take too kindly to that. So I don't think I don't think Maryland would go after her, especially after this year, a second time or for the first time after they did in high school. And B, even if they did, I don't think McMiller would want to go there, considering why didn't you go after me when I was in high school? It's going to be very interesting to see where she goes because she has all the talent in the world. Like when she's on the court, what she can do on offense is one of the best thing. It's one of the best offensive packages that I've seen, not just in college men's basketball or women's basketball, but in any college basketball, especially out of a freshman. So I'm sure she'll go to some high major. I just don't know which one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one. It's probably gonna be whoever's the highest bidder, just based on the fact that she has Mayweather Entertainment behind her, basically, with Leonard Ellerby and Sparkle Callahan. The people that don't answer their emails, don't answer their DMs, and probably never will at this point. And last but not least, we have some football talk. Rutgers football is actively looking for a safeties coach, which I did not know if would be the case or not, but we have confirmed that they are at least going through the process of looking for a new safeties coach. Could he be on staff? Could he not be? That's the big question mark. I don't think it will be Rob Smith, but if it's anyone on staff, he makes the most sense, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the fact that, confirming that they're actually looking outwardly as well, I feel like that
Yeah.
probably means that it probably won't be Rob Smith. So I guess we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah, and it makes sense in a little bit too, because Rob Smith as a coordinator, co-DC, play caller, let him focus on that. Let him just do that. And most of the time, coordinators don't recruit anyway. Now, Kirk will go out for quarterbacks. That's about it, but very rarely on the road. Rob Smith is probably not going to be on the road much at all, unless he has a connection to some staff or player at that point. Now, there are some names that are interesting to me. I think the first one, Duke safeties coach Rick Leister. Now, Rick has been with Manny Diaz since 2021 at Miami. So that's where it's going to be a little hard to pry him, because he went to Miami as a senior defensive QC, was a defensive analyst for his time at Penn State, and then moved on to Duke as the safeties coach. The only reason I have him on this list is because he's an Asbury Park native, began his coaching career at Monmouth, Army, Fordham. Didn't overlap with Demir Shaw, but was pretty close to it. I think it would make a lot of sense, honestly, just because Jersey boy coming home. I wasn't, you know what? I take it back, actually. Wasn't Scott Vallone at Fordham?
He might have been. I think he was at some point.
Oh, no. Okay, never mind. This guy was at Fordham in 2020. Scott Vallone was there in 2019, so X-nay on that. But Jersey guy, makes a lot of sense. ACC, already coaching safeties, would be a nice little pull there. Another name I kind of have on my board, James Rowe, David Rowe's brother, already coaching safeties down in South Florida, was the pass game coordinator down there. I think Rutgers could probably easily outpay whatever South Florida's paying him. The problem is he's from Florida. He's been in Florida for most, if not all, of his career, between coaching at his high school, coaching at Jacksonville University, coaching at the University of Florida. And now he's back home to his alma mater at South Florida, where he played baseball and football, which I did not know about. NFL guy, proven track record, makes almost too much sense. Brother's now the cornerbacks coach. Brothers have never coached together, which is surprising to me. Could kind of make a lot of sense there. Who else? Marvin Questador. I don't know how to pronounce it either way. Former Temple safeties and pass game coordinator, now at Penn as the DB's coach. Worked under Schiano down at Tampa. Worked with Rutgers in 2011. That's what it was. Under Schiano as a GA. Coached at Monmouth, coached at Princeton, was the co-DC at Princeton at one point under Bob Serace, before moving on to Western Michigan, Temple, and now UPenn. Helped apparently coach a lot of DBs. In his bio, they credit him for helping Logan Ryan, Deron Harmon. How much did he have an effect on that as a GA? Hard to say. But at Monmouth, he helped coach Tevin Brandon, who was ended up drafting in the CFL, and then DeAndre Houston Carson, who ended up drafted with the Chicago Bears. Also has he had a trio of all Ivy League DBs when he was with Princeton. Main territory for recruiting is Florida. Could always help there, of course. We know David Rowe's already not out in the trail, because you can't go out in the trail right now, but David Rowe's already sending out offers to Florida kids, so that helps. Dustin Johnson, Villanova corners coach. We know Schiano is another guy. This is a guy that I mentioned previously with the corners opening. Schiano was in one of his seminars at the NJ Coaches Clinic recently. So that's just a little tidbit there. But he also was the head coach of William Patterson. He was the DC at Stevenson University. At both schools, he was able to take them to that next level. Coached several DBs, has defensive coordinator experience. A little bit of a risk, but for a guy that's like a safeties coach, kind of fits the mold of like a Drew Lascari type resume that they had before he ended up getting an NFL job now. So, and who else do I got on here? Dan Hicks, Bryant's strong safeties coach. Longtime Jersey guy, has coached alongside, where was he actually? I think he was at Duke. Oh, he was at Duke at the same time as current linebackers coach Zach Sparber. Both of them were analysts at Duke from 2020 to 2021. He was the head coach of Harrison High School, where he led them to their best season ever in program history, which 5-6, you didn't think that would be their best season ever, but it is. Also was the OC of Kearney High School, was the head coach of Hudson Catholic, Also a defensive analyst at UMass under Don Brown. Coached alongside Macchieri, helping him out with the safeties at Duke during his time there. Connection to Sparber, now currently at Bryant. Jersey guy through and through. Makes a ton of sense. Another guy with a similar resume to Lescari. And that's all I got because I don't really know where the hell they're going to go with the safeties coach. It's a very interesting scenario. I'm sure there'll be a lot more names that will be posting soon. But
yeah, I do think someone like James Rowe makes a lot of sense, but like you said, it's a two-way street. You have to convince him to go away from where he's familiar with down south. But I mean, his track record has been really solid at both the college level and the NFL level. So I think that one makes a lot of sense. And he's someone that, obviously his brother is the new cornerbacks coach as well. So that'd be a pretty cool storyline as well.
Yeah. That helps.
I think this one would make a lot of sense. I mean, also, Cocoa High School, that's what it was, right? That he was head coach at?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one, to be honest with you.
I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory.
It's either Cocoa or it's Cocoa. I forget.
Yeah. Who knows?
I feel like it's that. I might be wrong, though.
I could be completely messing up. But anyways, it's definitely an area. Yeah, it's definitely an area that Rutgers has gone after in high school recruiting. Obviously, Shiano loves going down to Florida to recruit a lot of the guys down there, and that's one of those areas. So I think that one would make a lot of sense. But again, we never know where they're going to go. Just look at the defensive coordinator search and how we chronicled that one.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've done this recently with coordinator searches, and I have to stop doing this. I always take names off the list because I'm just like, all right, like there's no way he's going to go after Rob Smith. And then Kirk Sherrock ended up signing an extension back in before he signed with Rutgers, and I'm like, all right, there's no way he's going to go after Kirk. Kirk just signed a big extension. I'm at the point where I don't give a shit anymore. I'm putting them on the list if they have any single connection to Greg. We know that's how it works. It's either a Jersey connection or a Shiano connection, or someone on the staff connection too. I've looked through everything. These are like the top names I could find. Technically, a Trey Bell could fit there too. But Trey Bell spent a ton of time as a cornerbacks coach. He's also left 2 locations already this offseason, going from West Virginia to UMass to Charlotte within a matter of 2 weeks. So I don't think he'll want to move again. Also, Charlotte gave him pass game coordinator / corners. But going back to what I just said, that might just be me being an idiot and leaving him off the list, and then he'll be the guy. So I don't know anymore. I've given up. But those are just a couple names to keep an eye on. James Rowe, I like a lot. Dan Hicks would make a lot of sense. I think he'd be an interesting one. Coach with Sparber. If Sparber is your quote-unquote DC in waiting, why not? Why not bring a guy that knows him as well as anyone? Both Jersey guys, both worked together at Duke for 1 or 2 years. I forget. But either way, we'll wait and see what they do there. That's pretty much all we got today. Tomorrow, 10:30 p.m., BTN, Washington versus Rutgers basketball. Like you said before, probably a playing game for the tournament, Big Ten tournament. So they don't win that, they're probably screwed if I had to guess at this point.
Who's staying up until 1? Staying up until 1 in the morning for that?
Yeah, I'm sure the ratings on that one are going to be great.
Yeah,
I know I am too. But torture chamber. That's pretty much it. For those of you that are asking, we have a giveaway. Put 400 in the comments for our 400th episode, or put 400 in an Apple Podcast review. And if you give anything less than 5 stars, I'm not counting it. So Apple Podcast review, Spotify review, whatever you want to do there. Or put it in the comments, put 400 below to secure your entry in the giveaway. We're giving away a Slam cover magazine, which I don't even know if people want anymore because
it's still Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. I think
it's still pretty cool to have Rutgers on a Slam magazine. Slam magazine, I think it was an Ace Bailey jersey, and it was a subscription. Oh, and a Dylan Harper signed card. I think it's somewhere up here. Ooh, almost just knocked everything over. I don't know. Maybe it's just Kyle Monungai rookie card too. Giveaway. I don't know what the giveaway was, but look back a couple episodes and you'll find a giveaway. Because that's what I'm going to have to do to figure out what the giveaway was. But I have said giveaways in possession. So, yeah, that's all Mike. So he usually does all this stuff. But for me and Alec, that's another episode of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.